Everybody around. Going forward.
If you'd like to meet them, we can have a come fun game.
I think just generally. Be able to let speakers like in, if not every month, maybe periodically. Because some more attend the last. And you're the last meeting? I don't know.
He was not at the last meeting.
No.
He wasn't able to make it. The previous one, I believe.
Yeah. It's what I mean, it's not. Perhaps if I can be sitting for now, without participating, but if he's, put him on the agenda for. Updating. Hi. Member of the public.
Yes, a member of the
Great.
public.
The gym. If you'd like to participate in this point, we usually break for questions from the public
Okay,
or comments. This is about around 4:30ish.
okay, thank you.
Let's get started. I see we have a board member online. Mike is online as well. I don't know if we should expect Lee today, but you ready to go? Thanks for coming to the Water Advisory Resources Committee, sorry, Water Resources Advisory Committee. Today's August 4th. I'm gonna go around for, see if we have a quorum. I'll call the roll. Mark? Here. David? Here. Lee? Here. Mary?
Here.
Great. George?
Here.
John? Here. Will? Not here yet. Oh, that's right. Will unfortunately has not participated in July because of his duties at the camp. And myself. Forum, we can get started. Our routine. Start off with the consultants and Lou, if you're ready to go.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lou Ragazzino from Wright Pierce. I'm the owner's project manager and representative. This past month, we continue to hold workshops with Mass DEP regarding permitting of the water resource recovery facility. Right now, we're looking at the Bayberry Hills Golf Course for additional subsurface disposal of the treated effluent from the plant that's under construction. We recently submitted a hydrogeologic report to DEP. They're reviewing it. And they also received an irrigation disposal technical memorandum looking at various ways of subsurface disposal means that could be implemented under the golf course parking lot, the driving range, and then along some of the fairways in the cart paths. Once that memoranda is reviewed and accepted by DEP, we're actually going to be doing some pilot testing probably later this year in the winter months. Once the golf course shuts down, we'll be installing some test facilities to determine how much water can actually be absorbed in the ground through these various means. Our next workshop is scheduled for Tuesday, August 19th. Where we go through kind of this list of items with them on a monthly basis. Item 2 in the report is regarding the construction of the water resource recovery facility. Construction started earlier this year, well underway. The contractor, one thing I failed to attach in the electronic copy that was sent out was the 3-week look ahead. That's in your hard copy. You can see the various activities that the contractor is performing. Right now, all of the sheet piling, the supportive excavation has been completed around the treatment basins, the solids building, and the headworks building. They've installed a dewatering system. Dewatering and starting to excavate in those areas. The vehicle storage building is kind of the first item scheduled to be completed. And they poured footings for that building. That's a pre-engineered building that's going to be attached to the water department itself. So the contractor is anxious to get that building completed We could use it to store the equipment. The collection system, we have, we still have 3 contracts active, contracts 2, 3, and 4. Mike, do you want to give us an update on the collection system?
Yep, sure I will. Thanks, Lou. So yeah, as Lou said, 3 active, semi-active construction contracts. Contract 2, which is Robert B. Auer. They're still working on Old Main Street, doing services and connecting some of the side streets to the mainline sewer that was installed in Old Main. They also have a second crew in the Commercial Street area, finishing up on that section as well. There will be some activity at the pumping station site as well between Route 28 and Long Pond Drive next to the Pancake Man restaurant. There's a couple of structures. The main wet well structure, the big structure, has already been completed. They're waiting on the valve vault and meter vault, and those should be they should be working on those shortly. Contract 3 is Rivoli. They have suspended all work until after Labor Day. We're still waiting. I don't think we've seen what their proposed schedule is, but I anticipate they're going to be getting back right out into South Shore Drive right after Labor Day. Contract 4, for all intents and purposes, is complete. All the pipeline has been installed and tested at this point. The only thing that would be remaining potentially would be a permanent trench patch that was included in the contract and as part of the MassDOT permit. The town's trying to get confirmation from MassDOT that that permanent patch will be required as part of the town's work, given that MassDOT will be tearing up that whole intersection as part of their roadway work and rebuilding the road. So to us, it doesn't seem to make sense to put that permanent trench patch in. So as far as I know Jeff had reached out to MassDOT. I'm not sure. I don't think we've heard back yet, but the conversation will determine whether or not that work has to proceed. Otherwise, contract 4 is essentially done. Contract 5, as we've talked about before, we rebid that, open bids in early June. Diggett Construction was the low bidder. We submitted all the necessary documentation to DEP, to their SRF folks, and we got authorization to award a couple weeks ago. We just got bonds and insurance from Diggett last week, so in their process of getting their agreement ready for town signature. So that should happen within hopefully the next couple of days. So they're ready to go, and typically we anticipate work on that would start probably in the October-November timeframe. By the time we get the contract executed and they get shop drawings in and approved and order their materials, so that's probably the time frame for that contract. And then contract 6, as you all know, has been on hold. That was bid last fall. Diggett was the low bidder on that contract as well. That has not been awarded to them as of yet. The town's still trying to work out location for one of the pumping stations, as we've talked about in the past. That's essentially the status of the collection system. Happy to take any questions.
I'm not sure what best to do here. You kind of jumped ahead and kind of.
Yeah, covered almost everything. Right?
So you need to do an ask now, or you can kind of wait till you gets to it as well.
I don't know if you're going to get to it, so I'll ask now. Contract 5, do they tell you, have an estimate of how long that's going to take?
Mike, what's the duration for contract 5?
Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't really hear the question. It's 2.5 years. So they haven't given us a schedule yet, John, just because they're not under contract yet, but I would expect and anticipate that they'll probably take most of that, if not all of that 2.5 years that we included in the contract.
I had a similar question because you added the end date to the notes on Lou's memo. So why don't we just let Lou get back to.
Yeah, well,
Mr.
Chairman, that essentially completes my report.
Okay.
So with contract 5 and 6, there will be summer shutdowns work on 28, so I kind of extends it a little bit.
If you don't mind, I'll take you through it. Update at the facility. Go out there, what are you looking at today?
You're still looking at a lot of earthwork. Because they are now starting to excavate for some of the structures, still finalizing the soil removal at the infiltration basins, so there's quite a large mountain of dirt on the site, both sand and topsoil. But you'll see there is now some piping that's being installed for both the dewatering of the excavations as well as the enforcement that's gonna be coming in from contract 5, which is going in through kind of the back of the site, I would say, up through kind of below the cranberry bog.
So, is a very detailed. Work plan for that. Facility, and as far as you can tell, these guys are on time and on schedule.
They lost a little bit of time initially. I think they may be a month behind schedule. At this point, they've been working to try to keep up with it.
We're looking at that schedule, it's online, I believe. Can you update it, or is it static? Because this thing, their schedule goes out the duration of the project. So should they respond, keep the maps at the dates?
They update it periodically. So like every 2 months, we request an updated schedule.
Contract 2 you mentioned was on, still being worked on Old Main. Contract 3 is waiting for Labor Day to start up again. What are we likely to see on contract 3 in the fall?
Well, there's work on South Shore Drive that still needs to be, there's a section of sewer that needs to be completed. They have to complete the force main from Pine Grove up to Seaview. And then there's some additional work on Seaview itself that they didn't have a chance to complete before they were shut down. And then the pump station right there on South Shore Drive across from the beach parking lot.
And the side roads off the South Shore.
And then there's some side roads off of South
Okay, so
Shore.
that's the work in the fall. And what is happening on Route 28 in the fall for contract 3?
Just the
Just final permanent patch.
Okay, so they're gonna repave Route 28 while they're still working in the neighborhoods. In the neighborhood.
That's the schedule they have verbalized to us. We haven't
They're trying to give the property owners on Route 28 in that section of South Yarmouth sort of what to anticipate this fall. Okay.
Both 2 and 3 will get final paving in the fall. Which is a question of will MassDOT allow us to not pave that section around the Route 28 and Old Main and Station Ave intersection. And because MassDOT is starting their bridge project, Bass River Bridge.
And they would prefer it to be paved or not to be paved?
We would prefer.
We would prefer-
We would prefer not to
for
spend the money.
project to take care of the pavement.
Okay.
It would save the town a couple $100,000.
They're gonna come in and resurface all of that in the future.
Is it definite they're gonna start the bridge project this fall?
Yes, November 1st.
And we're okay with waiting, how long is that bridge project, 2 years?
6.
You wanna wait 6 years to repave the intersection?
Now, all the utility work associated with the intersection is supposed to be done before Memorial Day of next year.
Okay, so a year, less than a year. Fair enough. Anybody wanna ask on 2 or 3? Or 4, for that matter, so contract 5, is something that's come before the selectmen for signature yet, is that what Mike was alluding to? We have a
For the
contract,
next meeting,
we
we'll
have the
have,
bonding,
I
but
believe it's an agenda item.
we need a signature, right? But they're moving forward.
They're
There's
getting all the
anticipation
documents
of. Well, just out of curiosity, they're signing as selectmen or water commissioners,
Bob signs the contract, the vote by the board is total.
honorary water commissioner, okay.
Are they're gonna approve it as the select board?
Just a quick question on contract 5, based on our lessons learned from the infamous contract 3. Is there a way to maybe asterisk or highlight the summer shutdown provisions that are in the contract? I don't want to wait till next, in the middle of the summer,
Or next May.
talking about them, yeah. So everybody knows up front, we're not gonna have this foolishness of refusing to close down for the summer.
Right, we'll remind them.
At the pre-construction meeting, make that one of the agenda items.
Yeah, it's clear in the contract, both 5E and 6, as you know, the majority, 90+% of the work is all in Route 28. So it's in the contract and it's in the permit that they cannot work between Memorial Day and Labor Day. And that'll obviously be reinforced, but they're aware of it.
Thanks, Mike.
Question on the timeline, you're talking about contract 5 will be 2.5 years.
All 2.5 years as per the specification.
And start clock is,
When the contract signed.
so what date do we anticipate that?
On the next couple of weeks. After the select board meeting, will be signed shortly thereafter.
So just kind of working ahead. If it were to take 2.5 years, that's rest of this year, all of 26, all of 27. So we wouldn't be operational till 28.
Yeah.
Just trying to get a
It's
realistic.
the very beginning of the calendar year for 28, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I noticed you put an end date on your schedule as well as spring of 2028 for contract 5. I'm assuming that dovetails with the completion of the treatment plant. It should be
It's probably the same time frame as well.
right, so that. I got one of the obvious questions, because for some people this is so obvious, so now that contract 2 or 3, now that I have a connection, when can I hook up? There's nowhere for the connection to go, just still waiting for the plant. So all of these contracts are waiting for the plant, that's why on schedule, staying on schedule is so crucial, but we're assuming the spring of 28 is when it all comes together.
Correct.
Is anybody able to speak to contract 6?
We're still having discussions with property owners associated with the pump station 2. And that's ongoing. And say they've been productive discussions. But that's really where that stands. Once that's finalized, we'll be able to move forward with contract 6.
So waiting for that resolution, how does that affect the schedule for the fall?
The longer it takes to come to resolution, the less likely it is to start in the fall.
So, having not been resolved to date, there's a strong possibility it won't start this fall.
Yes, I would say that's safe.
Just stating the fact, not making judgment on that, because we're gonna be starting contract 5, which is Route 28 west of Parkwood River Bridge all the way to Higgins Crawl. There'll be a lot of construction on Route 28 in the fall, as it is. So starting contract 6 may or may not affect the overall schedule, but it provides or at least the accessible Route 28 until Higgins Crawl Road. Most likely in the fall. Correct. Okay. Just hoping to manage expectations for the fall as much as we can. Anybody else on 5
I
and 6?
think just following through with that on 6. Depending on. With the pump station location turns out, so on. Hopefully we don't have to bid that. Because we bid it. And it's pushed that much further.
It depends. I mean, I think you said it best. It depends on where that ends up.
Just a little detail, so if anybody else is reading these. Cruise 1, Cruise 2, Cruise 3,
This is the RB hour, 3 week limit.
And the hour, this is actually back you were.
Contract 2 and 4. Essentially, contract 4 is completed, it's all work.
Yeah, just, any questions, any changes on, well, anything's happening on us, on the, revolving loan fund authorizations? They're still in place, they're still intact?
Nope.
No change there. Great. You guys want to add anything else to the consultants report?
Nothing from me, Mr. Chair. I'm all set, thank you.
All right, guys, we're ready to move on. Our permitting is in place. You're having a meeting in August with DEP?
We have a standing meeting with DEP 3 months or a workshop. Where we go over the status of certain investigations that are being performed and the reports that they require. In order to assist them with the approval of the groundwater disposal system.
Work in progress, but at some point. Is there an overarching conversation about what this water should discharge? If you look at this discharge permit is going to allow us to do.
It's gonna be twofold. One will be allowing the water from the treatment facility to be used as golf course irrigation water. Which we've been working with the golf course manager. They can use as much water as we can send them.
That would have been a qualitative judgment. The other one?
It is the quantitative.
Right.
So right now, we're demonstrating that we can put as much as 1.5 million gallons a day subsurfacely at the golf course, dispose of them.
So as we are working to come up with that information and you're meeting with them on a monthly basis, eventually you get to a point where we resolve those two questions. They kind of give us an answer. Completely. Of type of discharge and the amount.
Hopefully they give us a permit, not just an answer.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
It's there.
you can go into these negotiations with the mindset that we're trying to get to that number. And then you can go into negotiations wondering if we're gonna get to that number, so. Your investigation after the golf course closes is part of that work.
Correct.
So you're not gonna be, you shouldn't be expecting them to be looking at hard information until that's done, so that's next spring.
Or probably early 2026. That won't necessarily, so the modeling has determined how much water can go in the ground without impacting other sources. The pilot study will just determine how much water can each of these disposal techniques handle. And if they can't handle as much as we anticipated, we'd have to put more material in the ground. Subsurface.
So at plant site, that was approved for 300 change,
370,000
and the total for phase 1.
Phase 1, 2, and 3 is 1.8 million.
So that,
But the treatment is big.
and until you start putting water at plant site, because isn't it still hanging in the air, potential that we still could put more there, depending on what we show up as far as that's once you start putting water in the ground, so potentially there's more down.
There are existing monitoring wells at the Buck Island Road site that will continue to monitor. See if the groundwater can handle more than 370,000
And match up with what the model is. Got it.
Anybody else? Barry, are you okay? So far?
Yes,
Great, thanks. Guys want to move on? It's a little out of place, sorry, the agenda isn't as clear as it should have been. We did go to selectmen's meeting on the 22nd to do a short presentation with Jeff, Lori, self, John, and Mark. And one of the things we heard the loudest was the public's concern about the construction impact of the first half of this first phase. So their next item for discussion is typically for discussion of those types of issues. If we're having any public safety issues, if we have any other issues that regard communicating with public and or the property owners down there. We have somebody that's available to us who's on staff now that deals directly with those folks. It's always good to sort of get the feedback that each one of us picks up in the meantime. If anybody wants to add to that discussion today. The summer has, July, they've taken time off from construction on Route 28, so presumably we're getting less feedback from the property owners on that corridor as well. You know, don't twice as much traffic on it, so hopefully we don't have any unanticipated issues with more traffic things activity. As far as you can tell, how's our public comment in this last few weeks?
It's been mostly focused where active construction is happening, which is Old Main Street. And that's where, you know, Ryan's spending the bulk of his time with the residents in that area. Good thing is that's wrapping up as well. There's no specific business impacts there. It's the residential neighborhood, but that is where Robert B. Howard's wrapping up their work for contract 2.
We got some specific requests at that meeting, one of them being that as we gear back up for construction in the fall, that we coordinate with some of the more institutional users of the roadway, one of them being the school bus drivers and the school committee. Can we envision how that's going to happen? So we're not having the conversation with the selectmen in November, but how those meetings are going, when in fact we should have been having them. Is that going to fall in sort of your purview? That's something we want to do with the contractors as well.
We have a meeting set up for August 25th at 10 o'clock in conference room A to talk with buses as well as our public safety team members will be there to work through any issues that they might have. We'll have a better idea at that point exactly what crews that Rivoli with contract 3 will have, where they'll be, as well as what more specific the time frame might be for contract 5. So that's the timing for the meeting. I will say that we did one of those last year, almost the exact same time.
Yeah.
And it went very well with the bus company and school representatives. So we expect that to be the same.
Is our public safety involved?
Yeah. Yes, please. All right.
Public open by invitation.
It's not a public meeting. If you had members of your committee that wanted to attend, I think that would be fine as long as we keep it below the quorum levels, but it's determined not a public.
Okay.
It's not posted.
I just want to make sure anybody in the committee like to plug in, and we might even want to sign, so we'll designate somebody to get plugged into that meeting.
Jeff, I'm sorry, what time is that?
10 o'clock.
That was the specific. The more general was that we could be participating either with established meetings that have been set up with business owners down there, that typically has happened through the Chamber of Commerce, or we could be initiating a more broad meeting with the property owner 28 at some point this fall as well. So I'm going to start talking about it right now, but we should be putting on the agenda for September. Feelings of the board wants to host one of those or participate in what's going on, or both, or maybe wait for the direction from the town. How do you might want to answer?
It's a good time for a meeting at the start of a contract. We have talked with Digger Construction for contract 5. They are very interested in participating in a public meeting, question and answer period. Just like we did for the other contracts. Many members will remember Gabby Hour was there for contract 2, and the project manager for Digger Construction is happy to do that. Since they're not starting until more of the October, November timeframe, I think September would be a great time to do that. They'll also again have a better idea what their schedule is this week.
We did not prearrange this, so it's not like I'm teeing him up. It's actually what I'm falling into. We're sort of going in the same direction here. So September we did get. Again, that was mostly property owners, people who were going to be impacted directly by it, but it was a town hall. Was attended by a lot of people.
Yeah, we have that house.
Yeah, and if you. If Diggett is prepared to deal. I mean, with both. Town people, town personnel and town residents, that would be ideal. Unfortunately, at the contract 2 meeting, contract 3 was not there. Which obviously contributed to the issues that we encountered subsequently. So if Diggett will be at the meeting, then they said it should be productive. To be honest, I'm not worried. I wouldn't be worried about a quota for that thing. I would be worried that enough of us showed up at that meeting, so we make sure everybody's well and reminded that when this is happening, when in fact we can get it scheduled. We may actually have a meeting between now and then, so have a date at that point. Anybody else want to question on public safety or on public communications?
I want to make it it's more of an observation, but very interesting to me. Is what's happening in this pre-construction, what's happening on Route 28 because of what's going on down at Yarmouth Road 28. Cars are now diverting off the Yarmouth, Wall Street, Yarmouth Road down and loading up Camp Street. And that we all know that intersection at Camp Street at 28 is a nightmare. It's backing the traffic up at all different times, morning, all different times of the day. And it's something we're gonna have to keep an eye on when that construction starts at 6, because being diverted off there, and I think there are also more people using Buck Island now, coming out to town. And probably the biggest problem is taking lefts at those intersections. And you talk about putting us on track. It's gonna be interesting. As time goes on.
Probably based on the experience at the contract 5 meeting, there'll be a contract 6 meeting. Probably the better time to put that in.
I'm just saying for the,
To discuss
for us here.
For those of us who've been here for a long time, the intersection has been like that since 1970.
Since I was that time, it's been like that.
With or without construction, we have become, and I'm sure you do
Try
this
the
as well.
1950s.
Yes, exactly.
You and I, probably members of the same club, I call it the Mary Dunn Road Club. We avoid all of it completely and shoot up to 6 a.m. and come back down to the same road. But
But I mean,
that's not the solution.
it's just dumping traffic in. I don't know what can be done about it, anything, just saying it's something to take into consideration, structures.
Anybody else? Skip over to public comment. About 4:30. Just to give everybody a head start, we have Selectman Mark with us today, Buffalo down, town manager. The gentleman in my life is John Greco. John's gonna be joining us as a WRAC member and starting at the next meeting. He's obviously here to catch up and make sure he's ready to go when it's officially here. But it's also an opportunity for us to be available to members of the public, if anybody wants to add anything, so you're here for that purpose, just identify yourself and let us know, what's on your mind. Hi, go ahead.
Hi, I would love to know the process, if in fact there is a process. Or if the Mattakese Utilization Committee were to obtain funding. To work, design engineering coming down Buck Island and going up Higgins Croll for potential housing. It's not part of, the phase 2, it's part of phase 5. So how does that all work with your group in terms of, do you need to vote? And then additional grants to actually do work?
So before we move any further, just for the record. To identify.
Sharon Homer, I'm sorry.
Right, are you a member of that committee?
Yes, I am.
I don't know that I have an answer, it's not a specific answer. I'm gonna defer to the professionals in a second. The question has come up in the past that individual properties would like to be connected that may not be in phase 1. They're not sure what phase they're in. But what's the possibility of getting connected? And when would that be? So it may fall under a more general answer, but where this is a very specific question about Mattakese property and the town's, well, I'm not sure I want to call it development of, but reutilization of, and to what degree sewering would assist or facilitate that process, whatever the determination of on the use would be. How would that work? How do we handle a request from that?
Well, I think the good news is your group is not the first one that's been before this committee in the last couple of months looking to be next. So there's that interest, and what I would say just generally is, we're gonna have consultants and then bring that plan before the committee for looking at the phasing. And we know we need to potentially modify some phasing just to deal with the nitrogen removal requirements that DEP has for us. And there might be some other reasons to modify the plan as well. The Mattakese might be one, so there's definitely a need over the next year to look at those phases and alter them. That'll be part of the watershed permit process anyway. And so the timing is good that we look at that. So that really is the process. Once this committee reviews that, there'll be a recommendation is made to the select board, and we'll need to finalize kind of what those future, at least the next couple of phases look like. Because we'll need to start lining up funding, whether it's design or construction of the SRF cycle for those phases. So it's now's the time in the next year is that period we'll be looking at.
I would assume, I don't want to assume, that if there's money that comes with us to help with design through grants, that we might be considered favorably because of the bringing of money, or number 2, because of the 7 wells that are all down off of Higgins Croll.
Yeah, I'd say there's other reasons again to look at, where the phases go. Water protection is certainly one of those. This was a complex, problem as far as looking at what phases are next and who's next, and all of those factors need to be part of it.
And then do you vote on this, or does it go back to the selectmen?
I think that what the whole issue is that the sequencing of it is we're looking for very much to having a resolution of the Mattakese Utilization Committee, and those recommendations go to the select board. And then the select board is going to be interacting also with the next sequence of phasing And, you know, what we had talked about conceptually is that we may be able to get, rather large federal grant to support potential connection of the Mattakey site into the wastewater in order to unlock the development potential of that site, whether for accommodation, housing, other uses. And so that is just at the conceptual level, but it all has to come in with the recommendations through the select board. And if it's possible to fund and if it's feasible technically, then that'd be the time to pull the trigger. But it's just great that you're bringing it up, because now's the time to put it in the back of our mind to figure out how we're gonna unlock that development potential, because without having a wastewater solution at Mattakey's, I think it would significantly limit the capacity of that site to really handle a lot of the things that we've been contemplating.
So with that, this is a concept that came back when we were rolling out water 50 years ago. You needed to connect everyone along the way before you got there, so it's going to be the designer, the consultant's job to help us understand how we get to that property from where we are. So a couple of years, we're going to be as far as Route 28 and Higgins Croll Road. I don't know if you can straight shot connections to the plant, or do you have to go back and tie into the spine that we put in place? I'm only bringing that up because of the proximity of Mattakey's to the plant. But for argument's sake, you might have to do all of Higgins Croll Road to get to Mattakey's. And is that a productive, will that become productive cost benefit analysis? How much development are we picking up by that connection? How much nitrogen are we mitigating along the way? Are they big customers, little customers? So you kind of have to look at it as what's designed, even if it's paid for, may just get us to the point where we find out that it's super expensive to do. And then that's where these guys come in at that point and say, okay, let's make a judgment call. Where do you find design money for a project like that?
Through the housing.
So it comes through the housing advocacy,
State
the
of
housing,
Massachusetts,
public housing infrastructure.
federal, I guess.
Okay. You suppose it becomes strings attached? Designed for housing?
Well, there's certainly some affordability issue.
Fascinating question, because the previous question, the previous inquiry we got that Jeff was referring to was from a private treatment plant owned by an association of condominiums. And they would like to expand their condominium project and get out of the wastewater treatment business. We too probably go through, they too probably go through a similar analysis, cost benefit. How do you get there? What do you pick up along the way? How much are you treating? How much nitrogen you're mitigating? And then you come to sort of the judgment call at that point.
Do they share that with you in meetings? The process of what they go through?
No, that's the process we kind of outlined for them. But to get to that point, we would have to consider it serious development if we want to take a look at it to see if we should get there. I think it's going to become part of our discussion about what phase 2 is going to look like. A lot of folks who are looking at our maps, that's not it, that's phase 2, generally speaking, designated to be in West Yarmouth. But based on the type of approval we're going to need to move forward, our watershed permits might require us to pull nitrogen out in such a way that that phase 2 designation changes. Does that make us closer to your property, or does it make it closer to the other property that's asking us? Do we have to go to a whole nother watershed to look for that nitrogen? We don't know yet. That's the process we're going to be embarking on over the next year. I don't mean to confuse you, but there's 3 different watersheds, and we're trying to mitigate nitrogen in all 3 at the same time. But certain project has to go forward, it can't go forward in a ubiquitous fashion, so necessarily, I think one of the watersheds is gonna get benefit before the others. Which one is that gonna be exactly? That's what we're gonna try to figure out. I'm gonna say this is the one, Lewis Bay watershed,
I believe so.
just because it's on this side of the town. Gonna be fairly complicated, intense kind of conversation, because you're not quite sure that's how that property is gonna be developed yet either.
Right, it's
So-
the selectmen's decision.
So they would, so would they allow expenditure of funds on the potential that this be developed for housing, and then in fact it didn't come housing?
Yeah,
Or do you need the designation?
no, we need to, we're putting the cart a little bit before the horse, but the idea is, all of these decisions are gonna have to be made and, you know, one of the ideas conceptually going in was that, if you could get, say, a large MassWorks grant that could pay for that section of it, you know, that would potentially take pressure off the town, but, you know, you can't pay for a small portion of it and then create another big bill. So, I mean, there needs to be a whole feasibility analysis for that hasn't been done. Right now, they're just looking at possible reuse of the property. But you're moving sort of into the implementation phase based on the recommendations, what the select board wants to do, then we'd have to figure out how to do it. Can we get wastewater? And it might, you know, on a lot of it, there's a lot of timing issues.
I get it completely. I just, it's a general question. I was wondering if you have to designate as housing and then get study money to be.
Yeah, you're not gonna get a MassWorks grant if you're not gonna create any units.
Got it.
So it's not just a speculative type of thing. It has to be, you have to come up with a project, right? And then, okay, how do you fund the project? Well, MassWorks is gonna take care of, you know, wastewater, or you're gonna have to install, you know, one of those highly developed nitrogen removal septic systems. So it's like, you know, this kind of like a lot of analysis that goes into that. Right now, we're just looking at how much space do we have, what can we do on it?
Thank you, Shirley. Anybody else?
Well, sort of more nuts and bolts than question. I'm Kim Bird. On Harrison Road between near Bass River, so I'm gonna stay and listen to the Friends of Bass River report. Currently in phase 6, wondering if that's gonna remain based on health of the river and that old water basin area. When I heard when I listened to the last select board meeting that financing moving ahead is still trying to figure that out for all these phases, so I know that that's a big issue. On the website, on the town website, it says each phase is taking roughly 5 years. Is that still kind of roughly where we are?
If it's on this first phase, I would say yes. we're still
Roughly 5
in
years
that
per phase.
Now, we're doing the most difficult deep work now. Is it possible that it could come in the future? That's something we'll have to look at. But based on what we're doing, yeah, it's roughly that period.
And will all of us in the town be going to that one treatment plant, or will we be building other treatment plants?
Just the one plan.
Just the one
current permit plan.
So when it's time in 2028 to connect. It's $20,000 to $40,000 to do that. How, I've been told that there's a fund that people can apply to if they're putting in a new septic system, because that's $10,000 to $20,000 also. Are you guys still working out? Last time I was at a meeting several years ago, like, will that be available to people? Because expecting and so it's kind of like, are we working on that? And then when they come to your street, out finding the plumbers, the work people, I'm down at Hill, my septic a little bit, so apparently I'm gonna have to get a a pump and I just was about to say designer and some sort of architect to design that system, to get it up to the street. It's not a big, it's not, I'm not down in a gully. It's downhill from the street, so how are we providing enough people to work on that when it comes around is kind of my question. And my last question was about, are we gonna stay in the phases? Clearly, I should just stay tuned because sometime next year you guys are gonna be looking at what is next phase, or where is the next phase? So, and again, I'm currently phase 6, but
The phasing is just another way of saying what's next.
Right.
And you have to bite this off in certain chunks. You can't do the whole town all at the same time. It's not a practical way to go forward. So whether you were in phase 2 or phase 6, the answer would be the same. When the connection comes to your property, the town will have already determined what the best location for that connection is, because they already know what your septic system looks like, and they're gonna make some pretty good engineering guesses on where that connection would be the easiest for you to connect to. You will, however, have a chance to sign off on it in case you disagree. And all of that's to find best way to interrupt the connection from your building to your septic system in such a way that you can connect most easily to the street. If you're lucky and it's already on the side of your building, you can do a straight shot to that connector and if it's downhill. You'll be one of the lucky ones. Will be a betterment fee that the town will charge for that connection. There is a formula by which determines how much that is going to be. It's not the old fashioned linear foot type of expense that we did when we rolled out water all those years ago. It wouldn't even be fair to guess right now, but we can say $10,000, $20,000, could be more. For that fee, the town has agreed, authorized that betterment be put on your real estate tax bill and paid over 30 years. And it survives the ownership of your property if you desire to do that. Could very well just write the check and pay for it up front and be done with it, but you could put it on your tax bill. The second charge, which is which you really sounds like you're more concerned about, is you gotta find civil engineer to design the connection and a contractor to construct it. And I think there's a budding industry on Cape Cod that's going to provide those types of services, either individually or in conjunction with one another, and maybe even a superarching company that sort of coordinates all that for the property owner. But nevertheless, that construction is a cost borne by the property owner. The only relief at the moment that we know of is the county the aqua fund. Now they changed names last year. You can finance that, and that's a 20-year finance program. Which also can be paid through real estate tax bill. That does not survive ownership though, so it transfers.
Yeah.
Because these are really long periods of time. So one needs properties for that one. But you rightfully pointed out that that's a variable cost. It's a long pipe, it's a crooked pipe, it's a pipe that's below grade, it's a pump. That could be anything from 10 to tens of thousands of dollars. And then eventually, when it all does connect and you're using the system, you'll be getting a water sewer bill. So those are the three financial obligations you're incurring by connecting to the sewer infrastructure in the town. Offering financing on two pieces of it, two big pieces, and then an ongoing cost for the other. Part of designing and improving this project, we recognize that you will no longer be in a septic business. So that eventual replacement of your septic system will not be needed. So you'll be saving some money at that point to sort of help mitigate the cost of moving over to sewer. But that's gonna affect everybody a little bit differently, so you can't necessarily say that cost will be. And there's a lot of nuance in there between when exactly you have to hook up, and exactly how you're gonna get the hookup approved. You alluded to it a little bit, that
Well, it's like, how many times are they gonna like dig up your road? If there are 12 houses on the road,
Everybody gets a connection, everybody has to hook up.
they have to.
And so far, the Board of Health regs are that everyone has to hook up within the 2 years of when they go. The issue you alluded to is more an industry-wide issue, which is, do we have enough guys to do this? Because it's not just us. You know, you have 8,000 connections you're gonna do in town of Yarmouth over the next 30 years. I'm 15 towns, so obviously not all as many as much as us, but there's a couple 100,000 connections on the Cape that could result from everybody's sewering. And that's a lot of engineers, it's a lot of contractor, it's a lot of pumps. At one point, the consultants, not for us specifically, were telling us maybe a third of all the properties are gonna need a pump. So if you feel like starting a business, starting a pump business, probably a good business to see in the next step. But those are just general sort of ways of explaining what's coming. I think what everybody's concerned with, if those numbers add up and affect different property owners, i.e. families, differently. In my conversations with homeowners and homeowners associations, the ones that are second homeowners aren't as concerned, ones that are residents. It's a potential that the total of these costs start to rival your capital. That's a big budget item for families, a lot of families around here, so. I think everyone's justifying the concern, and the selectmen are committed to trying to figure out how best to lessen that impact going forward. When you explain that to some folks, they're still eager to get going, and explain it to some folks, they're happy they're in year 30 or 40 because they won't have to face these questions for a while. So it's as much, I hope that is a helpful explanation. And
Yeah.
I don't want to cut you off if you have anything else.
No, I think that's it. I was just kind of wondering, it'll be interesting to see how this hookups go in this first phase then. I think that'll give us some more information, and then once. It's like, once you find out when you're a go phase, you kind of not need to start doing some homework.
We've generally had these kind of questions at the very beginning of this project, when we did these public sessions about 2-3 years ago. And for people get the question answered, they move on and they forget about it until it's time to think about it again.
Yeah.
With that, we were at the selectmen's meeting a couple of weeks ago. We suggested that we go back out into public and have these type of information sessions again. And they would like, and I hope we agree to have one before town meeting, which is in November, not specifically designed to preempt town meeting, but to make sure that folks had an opportunity to have their questions asked and get a bunch of information from us on the project. So it's to be prepared for whatever is happening in town meeting. So you get another shot at this in the forum for questions like this. Which brings me to, are you guys up for that? Going back out in October. For one big beautiful session. I mean, for me, it's appropriate heading into a town meeting where we gather as citizens of town, especially if we have appropriations requests on the warrant. And before you get to town floor and you get inundated questions, you could have prepared the folks who are at the town meeting much better from having done it. We just need a forum and a microphone, maybe a map, take on the questions, put it on Zoom for folks who want to participate, and just run on tape until the meeting, so as many people who have questions have them answered before they get. So that's what I'm putting on the table, if anybody wants to chime in. I think we heard at least once during that meeting is you guys want to go to the senior center and have the meeting, they're all for it. So it's kind of what we're suggesting. Enthusiasm is okay. Well,
Gotta keep it going, thank you. Especially like you say, if we're going for a article town meeting, I assume it would be investigation design.
Currently don't have anything planned for wastewater requests for the fall.
Okay.
For spring, though,
Spring,
great. For final design for recharging. You're referring to. But right now, we're in good shape for what we already have funding.
I think you need specific dates at some point to anchor on participation.
yeah, I'm just looking at what we've already discussed today in August meeting. With the transportation companies, September meeting would be for contract 5, so yeah, we're out there. And obviously, there's this session every month. So up here, we may or may not need it for October, going into November's town meeting, but we can at least put it on the agenda for next month. Try to put a date around it. One of the ways we're gonna be able to answer with phase 2 question, the question about what phase 2 is gonna look like, is by getting more information. I think your consultants are gonna be part of that determination. Where is this nitrogen and how much of it is it? But part of what we might want to explore along in getting there is some of the work that the county planning agency is doing around the freshwater initiative, and kind of works hand in hand with the drinking water and coastal ecosystem projects that they're working on. Yeah, they're all free, but especially this newer version, this newer part of that planning may give us some of the data we're gonna need to figure out how to do the next few phases. Mark's a pretty big advocate of freshwater initiative. Want to just 2 minutes on what it is, so you can talk about it.
Thanks, Bert. When the committee came before the select board, to update us on all your work, one of the suggestions that I put forward was getting advice from the committee on how this county freshwater initiative can be of help and benefit to Yarmouth. The county has spent a significant amount of time and energy through the efforts of the Cape Cod Commission to really look at some of the water quality threats of freshwater bodies, particularly lakes, ponds, and our rivers and streams. And they've taken a look at each community. And there may be some value. I've already had this conversation with the commission staff. Just tee them up if asked to come to Yarmouth, at a public forum. And this could be a potential agenda topic, at one of your public forums, is to get some insight on terms of how this program works, what have we learned about freshwater in Yarmouth, and to the extent that there are threats and issues and challenges that we face in terms of improving water quality in our ponds and freshwater bodies, what specific guidance and recommendations do they have? So I think that there's a need to ask them in and help educate you, and hopefully through by educating you, creating an awareness in the community about this freshwater initiative and how Yarmouth might benefit from participating in some way. They spend a lot of money on guides and resources. There's a tremendous amount of information online. They're collecting water quality information on ponds and collecting information about Yarmouth. So I think it's incumbent on us at some point to sort of get ourselves brought up to speed on what they're doing. And then I think the select board would welcome recommendations from the committee in terms of next steps. And, you know, quite frankly, I'd like to learn more about how water quality will be improved in our ponds, specifically through our wastewater investments. I think the more we can understand the connection and understand how these improvements can impact in a positive way water quality and ponds and freshwater bodies, I think that's information that we should have. I'm not suggesting we make changes on phasing, but we may learn some things. I'd suggest that maybe some other portions of the community we might want to accelerate some attention. I don't know, but it's certainly worth getting benefit and insight of the staff at the Cape Cod Commission that has done all this work. They spent a fortune. I think we put close to $3 million in funding in this initiative. I'd like to see each community benefit in some way with some specific recommendations. So they're willing and able to come here, and I think this committee could play a very useful role in giving guidance to the town in terms of how we can work together with the county in addressing some of our freshwater water quality issues and needs.
Before I ask this question, anyone have a particular interest in this freshwater initiative?
Yeah, I do, but yeah, I haven't thought, but yeah. My thought is, let's not forget Lewis Bay and Parker River and that area. Because since 2015, when coming to these meetings, phase 2 was in a certain area and people voted money looking at that map. And I hate to see us radically change phases when people came in thinking it's one way and now it's going to be another. And I've said that here before, and I'll just say, I'll probably say that.
I don't want anybody to misinterpret what I'm saying.
I'm not saying
we phase.
but obviously,
All I'm saying is
yeah,
my hope is that we can learn something in terms of how we can better address.
and it's issues that
some
come
of the
to our
threats.
commission a lot. You know,
What's that?
It's issues that do come to our commission, to the conservation.
So, and Mark, in your estimation, this is Aaron Perry and Heather McElroy's project, right? So my thought was to have them come here and give us the sort of quicker presentation. But to do it in conjunction with what they've already done on drinking water and coastal.
If I can just interject, I think the other body in town that would have a really strong interest in this would be also the Conservation Commission. Many of the recommendations that they've developed deal with how homeowners and others can be involved in better preserving the watersheds in and around in the land areas in and around our ponds, freshwater bodies. I believe that there's a lot of very productive work that not just the town can do, but also homeowners. There's things that people need to be just generally aware of. And I think one of the things that I hope we can accomplish this is helping create a more informed citizenry. Our residents in Yarmouth, if they're living next to a pond or living on a freshwater body or within a watershed, in some way what they do on their property contributes, they can think and have a better understanding of how they can sort of adopt their own best practices in terms of what they do in their own situation with their own property. So my hope is that I'd like to see a broad set of recommendations, but I think it's important to understand that many of the recommendations that will come out will probably have more of a direct impact on the homeowners themselves in terms of,
I'm always astounded by how many homeowners buy property on water areas and then not think about, gee, I have some obligation to this, ask Conservation Commission or conservation agent or administrator. What can I build this dock without permission? Then have permission?
So I think the commission will find it of incredible value And I think it would just shed more light on some of the challenges that you've been wrestling with as a commission. But I also think there's a broader set of issues that can be helpful in terms of the work of this committee. And like I said, it would be helpful to know if there are particular water bodies that are stressed or significantly impacted in some way, that we may need to spend closer attention to, and we need to put some more time and energy and effort into monitoring or getting the county or others that are doing it, spend some more time providing support to what we need.
And I'll add two groups of people need to be educated, three groups, realtors. Lawyers who work with, people buying a house. I mean, I'm astounded how many realtors or homeowners or potential homeowners don't even look into it. And the realtor can simply say, hey, there's water here. Let's check and see if there's no permit outstanding or whatever it is. And number three, a contract, people who work cutting trees or cutting woodlands. It's incredible what people do and sometimes get away with it. Yes, somebody goes for a walk around the neighborhood.
I think we all see it all, you particularly because you serve on the conservation commission. But a lot of us see this problem in the community. A lot of new folks coming here from elsewhere and start doing things on their property, right on a pond, right on a freshwater body, and it has an impact. And
do you want to check to see if comes in on this deal and we can do it
Yeah,
together?
we have a meeting Thursday night, a meeting with Brady on.
We want to have them come to town to do it twice.
Right, but if we're all here as a group, I guess it is a listed meeting, so that would be a problem.
We can have them come to. Question. Find out if you come to yours as opposed to come to ours.
Yeah.
Figure out how the best path.
I would recommend if you could do it at town hall in the hearing room and make sure that it's videotaped so people can follow it and catch on. I think that would be very helpful.
I'm just wondering if it's their scheduled meeting, our scheduled meeting, or neither, but we together got them here to do the presentation.
Yeah, maybe you have a special meeting on Thursday night that fits with their schedule,
Yeah,
that's what I would recommend.
I just think the commission has so much valuable data, that just kind of sits there. I don't know who's using it. I don't know if you guys are obligated to use it on occasion, but it could potentially answer a lot of these questions for us.
Question. Have we had our discussion about wastewater financing today?
Nope, just checked over, just trying to get the public session in. We can come back to it if everyone's ready to do that.
Well, I don't want
No,
well, that's perfect.
okay, just jump in.
What I'm about to say, I think synchronizes with some of the discussion with already on the table with regard to Mattakese and the phasing. The town has secured the financing for the trunk line and the treatment plant. It's great. But as soon as we go to whatever is next, let's say for conversation, we go with the existing phasing 2, 3, or we incorporate something at Mattakese, the bell rings. We don't have any financing in place. And so what I just want to raise publicly is, the cloud that's out there, the financial cloud. I'm not saying anything ominous, but there's possible redevelopment of Mattakese School with big price tag on it, X, whatever it is. A new library, with another big price tag on it. There are bonds on the building we're sitting in. Bonding on the school that we did on Station Avenue. And what I think, I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but I think the more public awareness about it, the better. Town of Yarmouth is looking at some pretty healthy expenditures, probably well beyond my lifetime. But it's never too early to start. And, 10 years ago, when this sewer project started to reignite, 2018 with the formation of WRAC. The agenda was at all costs, build a sewer system. That's being fulfilled. But I think, for the sewer system to be what its potential is, it, it's gotta reach the citizens, it's gotta get into the neighborhoods. Phase one is wonderful, treatment plant, trunk line. But in terms of reaching individuals and addressing the nitrogen problem, it's only a kind of, what I'll call a big drop in the bucket. And if we're gonna really, put teeth in the tiger, we gotta start reaching all the condos on Buck Island Road. They're easy hits. We gotta get to the houses per se. And so I'm just saying is, there's a lot of nice ideas out there for the town. But it wouldn't be a good thing for the town to end up with a financial collision and all of a sudden want to go for bonding on, pick a number, phase two, phase three. And the bonding people start to say, town of Yarmouth, you may be tapped out. And I'm just ruminating, speculating, but good idea to my world to raise consciousness, have people understand that decisions have consequences. Not saying any idea is good, bad, or better than another one. But at the end of the day, we all have to pay for whatever it is we do. And, who knows what the federal government's gonna do, or the state government's gonna do. To me, town of Yarmouth needs to say to itself, okay, this is on the town of Yarmouth. And if good fortune happens and we get a partner in the state or the feds, great, but it may not happen. So I just wanted to get all that out there for consideration.
We kind of heard that question from the selectmen as well.
Yeah, no, I think the financing is a major concern for us. You're right, we have a lot of big ticket items coming. We got a new school coming, we got a fire station that we've got to figure out how to finance, and we've got a president and a Congress still talking about a 90% cut to the SRF program. Right, so a lot of what's going on in Washington makes no sense, but it will have an impact on states as well as communities like your own. And we're gonna have to adapt. It may be that phase 8 right now in the schedule that I see, phase 8 begins in 2058. Maybe it's off a couple of years. Because I get asked this all the time. I'm in phase 6. When do I start? So I look at the chart and I say, oh, you're slated for 2048 under the current schedule. Now we're gonna have to update this. The point is that everything is based on certain assumptions. We've been arguing, I'm president, in addition to being a select board member, I'm a county commissioner, I've worked on the Aqua Fund, getting that completely redesigned so that it can provide individual assistance for, sewer hookups. And I've also been very active as the president of the Cape and Islands Municipal Leaders Association, talking about the need for more state funding. But right now, the state's not particularly interested in giving Cape Cod money. What they will tell us is that if you need more money, give us a local option tax that you would like us to give you the ability to authorize. And we'll give that some thought. So the state is more or less looks at wastewater on Cape Cod as not their problem anymore. And that's been very frustrating, because if you add up the financial impacts of wastewater on Cape Cod, we're talking billions and billions of dollars, at least 5 to 6 billion that's out there. Now, the county is working with the Cape and Islands Water Protection Fund. These are the folks that are providing financing. We're doing a long-term, we're doing a deep dive right now on what each town's costs or infrastructure expectations are. We want to look at the next 10 to 20 years and try to figure out, okay, how much money do we need to get all of these projects done? And we're going to be finding that it's in that neighborhood. And we're going to once again put pressure on the state to see if we get the state to pay some attention to this. Because if this is all on us, very few of us are going to be able to afford to live here, frankly. So we do need help. We need to figure out creative ways to finance this. And the money situation is a huge one. Town like Yarmouth of 23,000 people. We're being asked to spend a significant amount of money on wastewater more than any other community of our size. So we're gonna keep screaming for help, screaming for support. But at the moment, it's a pretty difficult situation, so, you know, we're all paying attention to what they're trying to pay attention, trying to follow what's going on in Washington. But when it comes to water and water infrastructure, it's not a pretty picture right now.
I'll make my pitch one more time. You can make that part of the public forum. I think.
Raise your congressman,
In the next few
call your
months.
congressman, scream it, you know. The decisions being made in Washington literally this year will have a real impact on all of them. People just need to be aware of it.
So Mary's left the meeting. She's probably at the Board of Health right now. And we only have one other item on the agenda. Bass River, Friends of Bass River are not in the house. Yes. Officially, we're all friends of Bass River, but usually Mr. Bishop gives us a quick update on some of the more interesting things he's working on. We got an email late today that you should be aware the local content comprehensive plan is available for comment until September 1. And the selectmen are taking it up at the August 12th meeting. It's want to listen in on that. You guys all got the email. We're looking for approval in November, so town planner wants to make sure all the town's committees have had opportunity to engage with plan. Comments if you need to, all the links. We were given minutes for a while, even though we still have a couple of previous minutes outstanding, we were not available for today's meeting. Is it your pleasure that we vote on the July meetings? Get them off the to-do list or?
Move we accept this. Thank you.
Any second?
I'll second
Since only we're all in the room, all in favor? Aye.
I'm gonna stay, I wasn't here.
David was not here last month, so we still have 4. Still have the majority. Close enough? Thanks. So now let's take a meeting to adjourn. And I can vote for. So motion by David, second, all in favor? All right, thanks all for participating today.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Hi, Fran, there.